Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know.
On some days he's more than humble. On some days he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. Sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. You say. On some days he's more than humble. On some days he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. Sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. You say. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. Sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder. You say.
Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, together we go. Hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know across the land. Together we go, hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
The Lone Ranger.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my dress. In a torn-up town, no postcode envy. Every song's like gold teeth, gray goose tripping in the bathroom, bloodstains, ball gowns, trash in the whole room. We don't care. Driving Cadillacs in our dreams, but everybody like crystal Maybach, diamonds on your timepiece, jet planes, islands, tigers on a gold leash. We don't care. We aren't caught up in your love affair, and we'll never be royal. It don't run in our blood. That kind of looks just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me Queen Bee.
My friends and I, we've cracked the code. We'll count our dollars on the train to the party, and everyone who knows us knows that we're fine with this. We didn't come from money,
but every song's like gold teeth, gray goose tripping in the bathroom, bloodstains, ball gowns, trash in the hotel room. We don't care. We're driving Cadillacs in our dreams, but everybody's like crystal Maybach, diamonds on your timepiece, jet planes, islands, tigers on a gold leash. We don't care. We aren't caught up in your love affair, and we'll never be royals. It don't run in our blood. That kind of looks just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me Queen Bee. Our blood, that kind of looks just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me Queen Bee, and baby I'll rule. I rule. I feel happy, let me see.
What, as the kids say, is up? What up, Twitch? What up, Aswarp? What up, Pharaoh? What up, Nero? From Pharaoh to Nero. What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. Donde está the boy? Hi. Bloop, bloop, bloopity bloop. I went to the doctor and I'm healthy as shit. Job still jobbing. Crackapill. I'm sorry, Crackapill. I did see you come in. What up, Crackapill? So yeah, I continue to live. I continue to exist. And that's about it. I guess we can get to content. Early adopters, early arrivers, get more content. Inside the viral Iron robot everyone thought was a human. I will live forever. Worked so far.
The internet was convinced China's newest humanoid was human. But did it fool our reporter when they got to see it up close? This is Iron, created by Xpeng, the Chinese Tesla competitor known for electric vehicles, flying cars, and robots that are so...
These are the people who built the SUV with the helicopter in the back of it. They can park the SUV and extend out, and then you got a helicopter. China's wild, yo.
So real they need to be sliced open to prove they aren't human. And when Iron was unveiled, the internet kinda lost its mind. Some people were convinced this was just someone in a suit. So, naturally, Xpeng's CEO grabbed a knife and cut it open. Mashable reporter Amanda
Those are scissors.
Yo actually got to see Iron up close at a private demo. And yeah, it gets even weirder. So today, we're breaking down how a robot crossed the uncanny valley, why Xpeng designed it to look this human, and what this means for the future of humanoid robots. Xpeng is best known as a Chinese electric vehicle company, but lately they've been making some bold moves in humanoid robotics. As a part of their robotics division, they're working on a next-gen platform called Iron, a tall, soft-skinned humanoid robot designed to work in human environments with human proportions in a world built for humans. Xpeng says the goal isn't just to make a robot that moves like us, but one that feels familiar enough that people will actually feel comfortable with it around them. One aspect of the robot that seemed to stir up some conversation online was Iron's appearance. And more specifically, its wide hips, slim waist, and very noticeable breasts. Which raised a pretty obvious question. Why would a robotics company design a robot like this? Xpeng's answer? Because humans are humans. The head of the robotics center says they're not making robots, they're making humans. Their logic is that humanoid robots feel warmer, more intimate, and more emotionally acceptable when they resemble us. And since
They're making sex bots.
different people have different body types, Xpeng wants Iron to eventually come in different shapes, sizes, and yes, different sexes. I guess you could think of it like buying a car. Xpeng says one day you'll pick your robot's height, build, hair length, maybe even clothing, including full coverage soft skin so the robot feels warmer and more lifelike. In other words, this curvy design wasn't
Full coverage, soft skin. I see you, China.
an accident. It's a test. Xpeng is trying to see how humans react to different body types before robots enter real-world jobs. When Mashable reporter Amanda Yo saw Iron up close, one of the first things she noticed was the skin. And yes, she actually got to touch it. She described it as feeling like a soft, stretchy knitted fabric closer to premium loungewear
Yeah, I mean that's not skin. That's a jumper.
than anything robotic. Amanda even admitted she was a little jealous of Iron's outfit. If Xpeng ever releases a clothing line, she's first in line. But underneath that cozy exterior is a pretty wild structure. Xpeng told us Iron is built from the inside out like a human. Bones and muscles that give it shape, and the knitted skin layered with embedded sensors. And here's the part that surprised us. Xpeng says the demo Amanda attended was fully autonomous. The robot's movement patterns, the walking, the turning, even the tour guide animations were generated in real time by the model.
Nice.
In person, Amanda said Iron doesn't feel like someone in a suit. It feels mechanical, but in a strangely human way. The proportions, the textures, the moment-to-moment shifts in posture, even when it's standing still, it felt like it was waiting for something. Part of why Iron exploded online is pretty simple. I mean, it looks like it stepped right out of a sci-fi movie. The slow, prowling walk, the body, it all feels very under the skin
Prowling is an interesting word to use there.
or ex machina, or the white mesh detailing, total Westworld. Humanoid robots have always tapped into that sci-fi part of our brain, and it seems Xpeng leaned pretty hard into that. And that's because humans are hardwired to react to anything that looks almost but not quite human, also known as the uncanny valley. We just cannot look away. But here's the thing. Humanoid robots don't actually make a ton of engineering sense. Bipedal bodies tend to be unstable, inefficient, and more mechanically complicated. But humans keep building them anyway. And Xpeng's philosophy seems to explain why. They're designing robots not just for function, but for emotional compatibility. I guess the idea is if people trust humanoids, they'll adopt them faster, although I don't know if I agree. And if they adopt them faster, companies can scale production and bring the cost down. So what Xpeng is really testing is how ready we are for humanoid.
There he is. What up, Leftist Corp? We were talking about you. China's building sex bots.
Machines that don't just walk like us, but look like us. And whether that idea excites you or creeps you out, Iron is a preview of a future where the line between human and robot design gets thinner and thinner. But hey, what do you think about humanoid robots? Do they fascinate you? Creep you out? Both? Let us know in the comments. And if you
Good stuff. Good stuff. Actually, since we're talking about robots, I'm going to change the playlist a little bit. I'm going to move.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. What up, Raiders? Excuse me. What up, Stellar Wingman? What up, Michael? You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. What up, Parkours? What up, who's next? What up, James? You'll be back, the homie. Like before, I will fight the fight and win the war. I'll get to thanking y'all for your subbies in just a minute. What up, Risky Biscuit? Great name. What up, Textilium? What up, Allie? What up, Bark Eater J? And thank you for the Prime for 26 months. Fucking wild. What up, Bourgeois Down? What up, Zippy? What up, Tenacious Liege? What up, T Minus? The Goat. What up, Becca? How you doing? Thank you for your sub for 16 months. I love it. I appreciate you. What up, Digital? And what up, Big Ben? And what up to everyone else who hasn't said hi? I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. And I also say, I don't know who I am anymore. I'm getting too much money. I also say that, but I also say, just smoke the weed, kids. Stellar Wingman. Redeemed Dino for 101 bits.
Unfortunately, nobody seems terribly interested in funding my research, but I am. I will fund your research.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
that'd be cool.
I think you're doing crime. Me? I am confident you're doing crime.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
And James, thank you for gifting one out that happened to land on Hydron Suggests Linux. Nice. We like that. Bim Bam Berry, welcome in.
Good evening. Sources confirm the latest tally lands squarely at 69. Analysts say the figure is holding steady with no immediate signs of change. Interpretations vary, but one consensus has emerged. Nice.
We are frooping it up. We are frooping it up. And the boy has arrived. The other boy. Oh, say hi to chat, Stampy. This is Stampy for all the new people. Stampy is the host of the show who is almost never here. He is the chunky boy. He is the 1,000-pound orange marmalade wizard. He's the goodest boy. Yes, you are. You are the goodest boy, aren't you? You want snack time? Tell your cats I said. Do. Stampy Cam. Getting snacks. He's the best. Dem defects. Stampy Cam. Get the snacks. He's the goodest boy. He's doing the thing where he doesn't want to sit in the chair again. I'm not sure what's going on there. Trans women. CEO of trans women. All right. We are going to get back to the content. We just watched a video about Iron, our new robot from China. And now we're going to watch a new Gabriel Torch about how robots are stupidly inefficient.
Engineers all around the world are trying to make robots that have brains as similar to human beings as possible, and they're running into the very same issues that our bodies have already solved, and here's what they're trying to do to fix it. Now, this is a huge topic with lots of different considerations, but the primary ones are going to be efficiency in computation and efficiency in power use. A lot of this stuff is just insanely theoretical, but people are beginning to apply them.
Oh, actually, yeah. I don't know if James, if you're still here. I got my Twitch recap. So as a viewer, just under 3,900 hours watched. Over 1 year, somehow, in the past year of viewing. Yes, I understand that they are rookie numbers. But my number one favorite streamer, James from the internet, over 1,000 hours watched. 79,000 channel points spent. Then the Paradigm Shift, the homie, Redolent Thought, Zach App, and somehow Levelhead, who hasn't been seen since like I don't know, before summer. As a streamer, I streamed for 866 hours. Samson's never coming back. Samson's TM has been purchased by Leftist Corp. Boop ba doop ba doop. Top category, science and technology. Best stream. Oh, gotta move, dude. Best stream was 287 viewers. Top channel emotes. That's you. Biggest fans, there's Larry, there's Ben, X1011, James, Read and Rap, Cosmic, Old Lobstar, Ribbons, and T Minus, the GOAT. I'm really surprised that Pharaoh isn't on here. I'm not sure how that happened. That's kind of weird. Top collaborations. I got 62 raids from James, 40 from Paradigm, and 26 from A Difficult Truth, also a homie. And I rated James from the internet 86 times. You see, I'm a giver, right? James only rated me 62 times. I rated James 86 times because I'm a giver. Paradigm, and then Levelhead again. Levelhead, come back, dude. Wherever you are. This is my top viewed featured clip. I've had to complete. It has to do with the number of times I've had to completely rebuild my stream from nothing. That I am like, I just don't want all that stuff that I would have to rebuild. Like, I don't know how Red does it without pulling his hair out. Oh, I'm funny. I didn't. I just realized because my number one viewer. What up, Patrol? Levelhead was my first leftist streamer before I could even tell. Like, I miss Levelhead so damn much. This is my top viewed clip of Red. Move the fucking thing.
I'm fucking hard. That's for people who missed that part. Just know that.
Allegations.
Never gets old.
I'm fucking hard. That's for people who missed that part. Just know that.
Allegations.
So yeah. What up, Argonian? Bald and hard.
Researchers are running into the very same energy constraints that our brain needed to consider while we were evolving to try to power intelligent robots. Our brain uses 20% of the calories we use in a day and only needs about 20 watts of power, so a particularly dim light bulb. The kind of machines that would model every single neuron in your brain would take a nuclear facility worth of power. That doesn't really make sense if you just want to have a, human-sized robot. So researchers need to figure out how to make it more like us because the exact same energy constraints exist. And here's just some contemporary research on how they're trying to solve that problem. And this group is borrowing Pavlov. Now, memory has always been an issue, and we don't really think in analog. One solution is to make a memristor. It's a model of a neuron. It essentially remembers the voltage that passes through it and can be reinforced. Some are so similar to our own that they can even act in a biological environment or interface with our neurons. It can react to dopamine, and I covered that paper before. But there is an issue, and that's with association. So why not use Pavlovian conditioning? Meaning a robot can associate one stimuli with another. This group also gave their robots a cooldown time. So if that stimuli is no longer associated with the other, they'll start to forget it. So if they get one piece of information, they're going to expect the next. But if a long enough period of time occurs between the two, eventually they'll forget. This is really important for intelligence. It's showing the basis of associations, which we normally think of as nonlinear thought. The example I love to give is if you hear pancakes, you might immediately associate syrup. It's kind of linear, but if you're walking through the forest and you smell maple, are you going to think pancakes? That is a
Yes.
much bigger leap in logic. So while this is very new, that is just the beginning of what we're going to need. Many of the other issues have to do with energy. So our cells burn through sugar in order to create energy for us, but a robot uses quite a lot of power. One solution is photovoltaic batteries, so synthetic neurons that operate on light. And because carbon fiber can transfer light directly into electricity for a robot to use, that's pretty efficient. It almost reminds me of plants, actually. Now, any of these could also be combined with other ways to get energy, which could really cut down on the cost. I am, by the way, a huge fan of beta voltaic batteries. That uses beta decay from unstable carbon, carbon-14 usually, which is a byproduct of nuclear reactors, and it can use that to turn it directly into energy. It doesn't create a lot of energy, and it's not really very reasonable for the kinds of electronics we have right now, but if we can get something that's more efficient, then yeah, it could be incredibly valuable. You could even line each individual memristor, each synthetic neuron, with something beta voltaic and allow it to capture that energy. Now you might rightfully ask, well, if it's radioactive, does that pose a risk? No. It can have diamond encasing it, and that will prevent anyone from being exposed to radiation. It's even been considered for pacemakers. It could be a battery that can last 5,000 years or more. Just how power hungry we are now does not make it reasonable, but we could get there. Now, there are some absolutely wild ideas like robots that could use food waste as energy. That's not wholly out of the possibility. I mean, it's kind of how a steam engine works. You can burn the energy in a product and then get heat out of it. But yes, people have considered robots that eat. What's weirder is I wonder if we're going to have robots that have a gut microbiome if we really go that far. Really complicated robots have not yet been considered for this. This is a model from 2000, but I wonder where this could end up going since we are trying to model a human brain and body. And of course, another consideration is robots that do not work on a binary system. You can get so much more information into a tertiary system or more states than just two. When we think of our genetic code, it's ATCG, so a quaternary
Message.
system, but it's actually more complicated than that because RNA is also part of our genetic processes. RNA does a lot more than just act as a genetic messenger between DNA and proteins. It also has metabolic roles and a lot of epigenetic stuff that we don't fully understand yet. It gets really complicated, but just bear with me. When we're talking about memristors, artificial neurons, we're talking about an on-off state. What if it didn't have to just be on and off? What if there could be different kinds of signals that could mean something else and you could have a much smaller robot or a much smaller robot brain that could code for a lot more information? One of the things that I think is just really cool about robotics right now is that it is such an open field. There's so many different ideas, and it may all come together into something that any of us didn't predict. There might be a discovery tomorrow that just blows everyone out of the water. Aside from the scary or uncanny aspects of trying to create intelligent machines, it really is fascinating. People are creating technology that 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago would have just been science fiction. It's a really exciting field, and I'm happy to tell you about it. Also, if the robots rebel, I'm on the robot side, just in case. Roko's basilisk.
Shifting gears real quick before we get onto this video from the primetime, because some of you seem to enjoy the primetime, and this is a short video. Totally not a grifter. Ed Zitron, totally not profiting from his grift showing up on Newsweek's channel, I think you're doing crime. I think so too. I am confident you're doing crime. But yeah, he's totally definitely not grifting people for personal benefit. We're not going to watch it. It's an hour long, and he's not going to say anything he hasn't said and that I've already discussed. But if you want to, the prime time Meta falls for the AI trick.
There's a startling new trend that's happening among a lot of the larger tech companies, and I'm just going to say it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I think it's bad. I think it leads to bad outcomes. I think it incentivizes bad behavior. It makes bad products. This trend, of course, started with Microsoft or Shopify. It's spread to Google. And now Meta, pour one out for Meta and Zuck. Man, I thought me and Zuck, I thought we were tight. I thought Zuck was the best, but obviously, I don't know about that anymore. All right, so what's happening? Well, Meta is about to start.
This is your king? What happened? Oh, did I touch M?
Well, Meta is about to start grading its workers on their AI skills. That's right. Your ability to prompt might be your ability to stay employed at Meta. If you want to continue to be a metician, if that is what you refer to yourself as, well, you better dust off the old clods and start getting after it, buddy. All right, the social media giant is making AI-driven impact a core expectation from 2026. Janelle Gale, Meta's head of people, told employees Thursday in an internal memo, which was seen by Business Insider. Meta will assess employees on how they use AI to deliver results and build tools that can move the needle in a major way when it comes to productivity. Now, I'm getting ready to crash out, but I'm not going to do that yet, okay? I first want to attempt to do a bit of steel manning of this entire thing, okay? So, to be completely fair, one, I think LLMs are pretty great for some internal tools that you just want to get up and running, because I can tell you right now that as someone who worked at a large company, there is a lot of shitty internal tools that get absolutely no love. So if we can at least get something to the point of just like a dumping ground where you can be like, hey, anybody can open up Cursor and just prompt your way and try to get any bug fixed and just make this internal tool work. Like, I could actually see a lot of people wanting to do that.
What up, Journeying Jordan? My workplace is the same. They're tracking Devin, there's a name I haven't heard from in a minute. Copilot usage versus PRs and disciplining people who aren't on the bus. It's why, like, I get it, right? Not everyone is a fan of AI, and that's fine, right? I don't judge, I don't care, that's a personal choice. But knowing how to use the tool, if you want to survive in the capitalist hellscape, that's a survival mechanism, right? That's a skill. You need that. You gotta have it. You can say, no, I don't want to, and I will say, okay.
And be a part of that. And honestly, not a big deal. It's an internal tool. Nobody cares about the quality. It's not, we don't care about the uptime. We just,
if only, Pharaoh, if only somebody back in, was it 2022, pivoted their entire channel over to consistently telling people of why they should be using the AI and what they should be learning, and I mean, it's a thing. Someone should have done that.
Want it up there. We just want it to work. We want it to display some results. The end. Or else you have to task and engineer weeks to possibly months of effort that just on a product that just, it doesn't need to be that good. At least that is my best ability to steel man this argument. And if that's the kind of case they're going for, is like, hey, let's use it to try to make operationally things a little bit smoother, like internally on the things we don't want to put in front of our customers and we don't really care, then yeah. But I said I was going to crash out a little bit and I was going to get a little bit upset, and I can kind of feel that storm building up inside of me, okay? Here's the problem with all of that. When you start measuring a metric, people will optimize it, people will game it.
True.
This has been done since time immemorial. Anybody who's worked at a larger company that knows about this, they absolutely have 100% seen this. Like, this is the reason why lines of code cannot be used as a measurement if an employee is good or not. You know why? Oh, baby, I'm committing that package lock file daily. Okay, I'm going to have lines of code change in the billions by the end of the year. And that's like just why it doesn't matter. Like, we've all recognized this. And so if you do the exact same thing, like, oh, how much of your code is written by AI? We need to make sure that you're actually doing this. We need to actually make sure that you are committing lots of code and using.
That's not what was demonstrated. What was demonstrated is that they want you to be using AI and be like AI fluent. Not that they're just like that you're making lots of AI code, right? Like that wasn't included in the Steelman. So L
an AI to generate it and becoming good at the tools. It's just like that doesn't make it good. Nothing about that. It neither makes it good nor bad. You can have two people both using the same AI, making the same prompts. One can provide you really crappy code and one can provide you really good code. I hate to say this.
True.
It's not the length of the context, it's how you use it. And so when I see this, you can just tell I'm upset about it because here's what I think is a much better measurement. Hey, Facebook, or sorry, Meta, sorry, Maticians. Let me just propose an alternative system, okay? I think this system is significantly better. Are you ready for this one, Maticians? What if you
There are questions, as Warp, about security issues, how people interact with it, like what they're doing that might cause a, some sort of security problem. Like that's always a possibility, right? And are you sending proprietary data to ChatGPT? Right? Those are serious concerns. But to knee-jerk ban the use of AI, that's going to come back to bite you.
You find all the people that are good performers that you like working.
Humans are perfect, Pharaoh. This is what we understand. Humans are perfect, and that's why AI sucks.
With, they tend to spot the real problems and write really good solutions, and they do it in a manner that is satisfactory to you. Why don't you keep paying them and make sure that they're happy? I know. Crazy idea. Does it matter that one person used an AI and another person did it? No, it shouldn't matter. If it's transparent to you, then it does not matter. What happened if the person only used it a little bit? What happened if someone's really good?
Cybersecurity, easiest job in the world, right? Social engineering, totally not a thing. Doesn't exist. Not a problem.
At tab coding. What happened if someone built their own tool that's completely orthogonal? They're able to make really fast changes, but it just doesn't show up in the way you want it to. What happened if they're not prompt maxing, but they're still using LLMs to do really great time-saving tasks in ways that are hard to measure? Like, who cares? Just have good employees and keep them. I know. This is just one of those things that I know is just completely controversial. We're talking about liquid scalding hot lava take coming in right here. Good employees are good, and you should keep good employees instead of putting artificial constraints on them to be behaving in a way that you expect them to be better. Like, what about that one? I know, scalding hot. Everybody, please don't cancel me. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyways,
That was a joke. I could tell.
I just had to say something because this is just like, it's just lines of code all over again. That's all it is. Hey, speaking of a million lines of code, I'm going to quit saying this once we get there. I will not be asking for subs once we.
Okay. Now he's pushing himself, and that's fine. Another GT, Korea's AI cautionary tale.
South Korea, one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world next to Japan and kind of the United States, made a horrible mistake by adopting AI in classrooms, and now publishers are suing them to bring AI back despite the problems it created, which is a mess. Unfortunately, the US is following suit. South Korea ran a very expensive experiment in which they created AI textbooks. This was meant to get them closer to students who are already using AI to answer questions in their courses. and it had terrible results. It was full of things that were just flat out false, and every classroom that used them had delays to try to correct some really egregious errors. Now, the government did put a little over $500 million into this project, and it had a significant effect on the publishers, which spent their own money to follow the program. When the government decided that these textbooks would be supplemental and not required because schools in South Korea have to follow the government's recommendations, that's when the publishers themselves are now suing the government to make them required again. That kind of sounds like the kind of dog and pony show we'd have here. Now, tens of thousands of students in the US currently have AI incorporated into their programs. This is an idea that helps students get closer to what they're already going to use. Yes, you can use ChatGPT to answer your homework questions, or you can use an AI that's been trained specifically on the material. Now, I am a college instructor. I started teaching my own courses around 2022, and this last spring I taught a class for the first time that had AI incorporated into the textbook. This was not my choice.
Just imagine the enormous amount of technical debt that's being created right now just by using underdeveloped LLMs that hallucinate a lot. Nobody will find out in years until it blows up in somebody else's face. That sounds like what coding for capitalists is. Just make it work now. I don't care if it works later. I don't care if a future patch causes, I don't know, a third of the internet to go down. I don't care about any of that. I just need something that works today. And then you add LLMs with, as you put out, underdeveloped, which are still hallucinating a lot, and leads to problems. Maybe you should check your code before you send it to production.
I prefer to have any copy of the textbook, but sometimes we are required to allow the most recent copy, which comes with an AI assistant. My experience was about the same as everyone else's experience with students using AI. Yes, they're just going to use ChatGPT to do their homework for them, often including the watermarks from the AI. Now, let me remind you that if I see something that is so egregious that I have to take up a plagiarism case, it's exhausting for everyone involved, including myself. Which is why I warned my students clearly and unambiguously early in the class, I do not want to have to take up plagiarism cases, period. So please, if you're going to use AI, do it in a way that is halfway intelligent. Do not insult my intelligence and consequently yours, because when I see that you included a watermark for the AI that you used, I'm going to assume that you just don't care. And the academic system is broken, and AI has broken it. This forces teachers to need to adjust. Yeah, homework is now kind of obsolete. You have to find other ways to force students to learn things. Now, I hate to say it because this was always exhausting as a student. What we're forced to do is have classes that have like 3 or 4 exams, and that's your entire grade. No homework because it is pointless.
There's a friend of mine on the Facebook who posted something, and I believe that this person is not a fan of AI. And I'm not sure if they actually read the entirety of what they reposted. But the post was that someone had gone ahead, and I'm trying to find it real quick. I can't remember. Anyways, I'll go down that rabbit hole another time. The point being is this person wrote an essay about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. And they got into an argument with someone on the internet. And that person took their essay and ran it through an AI detector. And it came back 100% AI. Definitely, without a doubt, this is an AI essay. Now, this person who wrote this entire friggin' thing could be lying, and they could have used AI to create it. But based on the way that they made their arguments, I don't think so. I think they wrote it and it came up as AI. And the point that they made was that that sounds like AI has become the new fake news. If you just want to ignore something, you can do that. Yeah, well, the thing is, Leftist Corp, what this person believes is that these AI evaluators, right? These, systems that you can run an essay through and determine if it was written by AI, they are looking for well written, smooth, intelligent sounding content, right? Like that's what they're looking at, because ChatGPT was trained on our work, right? We wrote a whole bunch of shit and then they trained ChatGPT on it, and now ChatGPT writes more often than not very well. Maybe we need to stop being assholes.
I don't have to tell you that that is not how the majority of people learn effectively. That means we are in a situation where the older forms of education, the ones that had higher stakes for exams, are the only ones that work. And that class that I was forced to use AI in was one that had a standardized curriculum, so I was not able to adjust for what students need, and the flaws in it just couldn't be fixed by me. Unfortunately, that is what we are looking at for a lot of classroom stuff, especially for elementary school and high school, teachers who have no control and no ability to fix the problems that we have. Now, the much worst part of all of that is that using AI degrades your abilities. We learn by taking up a task, struggling to do it, and then learning from our mistakes. Unfortunately, AI can write better essays than 90% of college students, and a lot of places grade on a curve. So if students don't use AI, they are now missing out, and that is a huge problem. By far the worst part about this is that I have always loved teaching. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed coming up with creative ways to get people interested in science. That's kind of why I do what I do here. I understand that people are just burnt out, both children and adults. We have undone decades of progress with understanding that not everybody learns the exact same way and trying to make classrooms more inclusive. We've created a situation that ensures only the traditional ways of doing these things are the ones that are going to work. Meaning everything is done in the classroom, exams make up most of your grade, and it's just assumed that if you do homework, you're going to cheat. I don't have a good solution for it. I can lament it. The US really needs to not have AI in classrooms. It didn't work for South Korea. We can at least look at somebody who tried to do it and failed and maybe not repeat the same mistakes.
I really need more information on what happened in South Korea.
Now I'm more curious. I'm so curious about knowledge and obtaining information.
Following pushback from teachers and parents, South Korea's National Assembly on August 4th passed an amendment to an education bill that stripped previously sanctioned AI textbooks of their legal status as official classroom textbooks and reclassified them as supplementary educational materials. The Korean Federation of Teachers Association said that while teachers are not opposed to digital education innovation, rolling out the textbooks without proper preparation and evaluation actually increased some teachers' workloads. Research shows that you're going to get the best outcomes in teacher-centered classrooms, and anything that's trying to move too quickly, focus on just the technology, without the adequate support for professional learning and development risks undermining that. Okay. I'm not sure where, like, there was a problem. I'm not saying that there wasn't a problem. I'm just not seeing where in this article there was a problem.
Look at this chart. Let's bring it up.
What am I looking at here?
I don't know, but it doesn't look good.
It doesn't
That
look
looks
good.
bad.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
It's probably bad. A survey released by the Korean Federation of Teachers Association in July found that 87.4% of teachers reported a lack of preparation and support for using the textbook materials. The majority of respondents said that they should be allowed to choose how to use the AI textbooks to best suit their needs. Yeah, again, there might be an issue here, but that's not what I'm getting out of this article. I feel like I do not think that means what you think it means. Anyways, I think it was, yeah, that Leftist Corp is the only thing I got. They were forced to use the AI textbooks as primary material. Were they actually bad? That's not covered in the article. Right. But does that mean, like, that we shouldn't be using that? Exactly. Like, who the fuck knows? I believe it was It's Gorific mentioned the Thinking Game documentary. Here's the trailer. Let's watch.
How do you keep power forever over something that's much more powerful than you?
My whole life goal is to solve artificial general intelligence. There's no time to waste.
They introduced the idea that they could beat the top-level Go players.
It's amazing. It's discovered its own attacking style.
And I said, when does this stop?
The ultimate goal was to solve the world's most complex scientific challenges.
Pretty sure that's
I've never
bad.
Pretty sure.
stopped thinking about the protein folding problem.
Proteins are the machines of life. They're why biology works.
The potential to help solve Alzheimer's, dementia, and drug discovery is huge. I thought it would need AI to do it.
We were the best in the world at a problem the world's not good at.
And then suddenly,
we've done this thing and it might be kind of a big deal.
We finally have a solution to the protein folding problem.
These are gifts to humanity.
there's so many things that got to be cracked, but I won't give up until it's done.
What is it that you like about this game?
Just a good thinking game.
Looks neat. Where can I watch it? Coming soon to the Google DeepMind channel for free. Subscribe for notifications. Bing! I'm already subscribed to Google DeepMind, but I'll subscribe to your other one as well. And also, if you want to subscribe. If you want to subscribe to me, that's cool. But you can also subscribe to the Google DeepMind and Thinking Game Film channels. Kling 01 is a massive leap for AI video. New theoretically media. Thanks, Tim.
Some pretty massive news coming from the world of Kling. We have a new model from them, and this isn't just like a version update, this is a whole new thing. Kling have released their 01 model, and you can kind of think of it as Nano Banana, but for video. Today, I've got a full walkthrough of Kling 01, and I gotta say, there's a lot you can do with this. It's pretty exciting. All right, let's hop in. So just as a quick FYI, I did partner with Kling for early access for this video, but I mean, overall, think of it as a first look and tutorial of all the things you can do with 01 because, well, again, it's a lot. Kling is touting O1 as the first unified multimodal video model. Think of it as Nano Banana, but for video. That said, it does also handle images. We'll touch on that as we go through this video. Overall, the idea with O1 is that, well, it does all the things. Text to video, image to video, in and out painting, stylization, transformation, on and on it goes. And it does so with a semantic understanding of, well, just about everything you throw at it. Now, the UI does differ a bit from, well, like old school Kling, which to note is all still there. But in order to use the O1 model, you'll just want to make sure that you're on this tab, so that brings you into the O1 model. This first area here will contain kind of a history of your recent outputs. Down here is, of course, your prompt area, and then on this side is, of course, your outputs. Moving down to the prompt area, we have a couple of different options. We can, of course, generate video or images here. We can obviously provide it with reference image or video elements we're going to get into in just a little bit. We also do have options for 916, 11, 16:9 duration and output amounts. There are also modules at top for elements, transformation, video reference, and frames, all of which we will be getting into. So at baseline, what we can do with this model, we're going to start very simple and ramp our way up, but we can take an image like this and give it the prompt to create a video of the woman and in this case, at image 1. So every time that you upload something, it creates a tag for it. Just entering the location and taking a seat at the bar. Generating this, we end up with an output like this. And what's important to note here is that this isn't traditional image to video in that our first frame is not our image. Actually, our first frame starts in a completely different location, showcasing an area of the location that does not exist in that initial image input. And, obviously we're following directions. Now, as a note to that output, no native audio generating here yet, keyword being yet. But here's where things start to get really interesting, is that we can take that initial prompt and add something like a clown is working behind the bar as a bartender, the woman orders a drink. Now, why is there a clown working as a bartender? I don't know. Maybe he's working his way through clown college. The important thing here is that, everything in our initial image reference remains the same, only now we have a clown. Now the question I'm sure many of you are asking right now, what if we want a very specific clown? Well, yes, we can do so. Actually heading over to the image generation model, so switching this off of video and over to image, and just prompting for a full body photorealistic image of a clown, doing this at 916, we end up with this guy. Overall, I gotta say, no notes here. So to swap him out, all we have to do is hit this go to O1 to create. That'll reload our video into the prompt box. And with very simple natural language, we can just prompt change the clown in video 1. And then we're gonna load in our clown. We'll just select from history to the clown in image 1. Hit generate, and there you go. Same video output, different clown. Still can't pour a Manhattan to save his life though. Now I do wanna quickly note, again, going back to this multimodal idea, you don't have to use image inputs. We can also use video inputs. For example, taking this, real stock footage drone shot of Dodger Stadium, bringing that in and issuing the prompt to change it to sunset, we end up with this as an output, which is kind of crazy good. I mean, everything in our initial video input is still here. It's just, the time of day has now changed. So actually, one really great use case here is if you have some old VO3 outputs from back when we were all putting text on the first frame to provide direction, such as our period piece of two romantic lovers who have just discovered that they are living in a simulation.
These last few days with you have felt like I'm
living in a simulation.
I feel the same.
So now we can simply say remove the text and red neon boxes in at video 1 and end up with this as a result.
These last few days with you have felt like I'm
living in a simulation.
I feel the same. If we're prompts, I don't care. I want to marry you.
Speaking of removals, Plasmo takes this surrealist piece, which I'm not exactly sure what's going on. It does look pretty cool though. The thing is that this hand that comes out, that was actually unintended. So now utilizing the O1 model, Plasmo can now, remove the hand and the output comes out as intended. We can also now change
fucking game changer, right? This is the ability to edit the videos in the way that you want them. So close. So close. 2026 is going to be wild for AI video.
shot composition, and even camera movement. For example, in this output from Ludovic the Creator, where we have this forlorn guy staring out to sea, probably wondering where his pirate lady love has vanished to. Where we can now change it to a crane over the head shot, which actually starts to feel a little bit darker. Don't do it, old timer. I'm sure she's gonna pull into port any day now. An additional use case, and this one is pretty insane, we can prompt for things that happen before or after our input video. Yeah, you heard that right. Kind of like time traveling, kinda. So given that as a theme, I had to take this shot of not Doctor Who entering, well, I mean, it's not the TARDIS, it's like, you know, the TARDIS that you would get if you ordered it from wish.com. But if you issue the prompt based on @video1, essentially your input video, generate the previous shot and then give it some direction. In this case, it was a tracking shot of the man walking down the street towards the blue box. You end up with results like this or like this, which does, you know, obviously represent what happens before that input video. Or as a bit of a throwback, we can take our woman in the red dress as the runaway bride from her wedding to the man in the green
Hydron, I guess, race you for it.
Tuxedo, and
what up, Mince?
And then issue the prompt based on, well, again, @video1, generate the next shot. And apparently it's our woman in the red dress making her getaway in a, well,
Textillion. There will always be a spot in my heart for AI's attempt to create symbol language, right? It's trying. It's not consistent. It's like a child in that way. But like, it's creating letters. Anybody who's familiar with On Beyond Zebra? In On Beyond Zebra, Dr. Seuss created all of these additional letters. Kind of looks like AI, right? I'm just saying. It
looks like it'd be a pretty classic car there. Now, to be fair, this isn't exactly a one-to-one. This isn't acting like first frame, last frame. Now, this does, I don't want to say require, but it does need
Russian, right? Like the Cyrillic alphabet created by some dude. Not what I want. Fuck off. You know, all these extra, we're going to turn the R around, whatever this thing is here, the F without the, what did I say? I said Cyrillic. Didn't I say Cyrillic? Typography is the new Turing test? Sure. Why not? All words are made up.
You to tell it what the next shot is. If left to its own devices, I mean, it'll generate something as it did here, where I left that blank. I just said, just generate the next shot. We ended up with, well, you know, what I presume is a much happier ending for our groom. And of course, in typical AI zaniness, if you aren't kind of specific with your prompt, you could end up with an output like this, in which our runaway bride is getting into the car, which is still inside the chapel. I presume that if we generate the next scene, it's going to be the car busting through that wall. And once again, the model can do first frame, last frame as well, as showcased here by Giacomo Malamassi, and it actually has a few tricks up its sleeve. In another example by Giacomo, we can see our opening frame here, our ending frame here, and then this kind of like special effect frame in the middle, and sort of treating it like first, middle, and last frame. And again, that semantic understanding of references is really where this model shines. For example, here's a couple of input images by Mad Pencil. Putting the 4 of these together ends up with a video output like this. I guess kind of like One Piece-ish, rock solid all the way through. And what's important here, again, all references are accounted for. Now, if we have some subjects that we know we want to continually re-reference and we want to kick up the consistency a notch, well, here is the feature that I'm probably most excited about, because we can now create our own library. If we head down to this Elements button and hit this, we'll discover a number of presets in the library, but if you head over to My Subjects, you'll be able to create your own subject that you can essentially add in any prompt. So in this case, going with this kind of animated look, we can tag it as a character, an animal, an item, costume, etc. In this case, obviously character. And then from here, we can actually bring in additional reference images. So obviously it is very handy to have the O1 image model on hand to, create different reference looks. From there, I ended up generating up another character and a location for them to be hanging out with. And then from there, I was able to generate up this animated sequence pretty quickly. And again, no sound or dialogue here, but again, you should just visually be able to tell everything that's happening here. And the important part is
my man's eye goes buggy.
This animated sequence pretty quickly. And again, no sound or dialogue here, but again, you should just visually be able to tell everything.
So there's still some warping, some morphing, some questionable, but overall, generating consistent characters is neat as shit. Again, 2026.
That's happening here. And the important part is characters are staying consistent, location is staying consistent, everything feels pretty solid. Now, of course, I ended up training up a version of myself, and this one looks pretty rock solid. What
up, humanity?
Cranky, but AI me always seems to be a bit on the cranky side. So as far as generating up a pretty solid character model, we're going to use channel fan favorite, Flamethrower Girl. Flamethrower Girl fans are going to be pretty happy with the rest of this video. She appears quite a bit. So just, bringing that in and loading her in as an image reference, was able to very quickly generate up a full body shot of her. Simply the prompt of create a full body shot of the woman in our reference image, standing against a neutral studio backdrop. Of course, we did have the flamethrower there. And because I knew baking that into the reference that could cause issues down the line, I just simply ran it again with remove the flamethrower. From there, I ended up creating a close-up of her face.
The people who keep saying something about AI plateauing are just like, do you remember? Again, we remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers, but do you remember the horror that was like the burger commercial or the pop commercial or the ketchup commercial or Will Smith eating spaghetti? And now we're here.
As well as a side profile shot. And once you have everything loaded in, I actually don't have to do this because I've already created her. Once again, we just simply name her. And then there's a description down here. You don't have to get too crazy about this. In fact, actually, you can just hit the auto button and it does a pretty good job of describing your character. After that.
That's neat. I love doing that. One of the things is when I create images, in order to get a good prompt, I will take an existing image and put it into something like Gemini and have it describe what it sees and then modify that as the prompt.
That's done. You just simply hit generate. So now we can take this, I guess, kind of like Joan of Arc inspired output that we ran a little while back and now have Flamethrower Girl time travel back to the medieval era simply by issuing the prompt, replace the character in video 1 with Flame Girl. Now, one thing I do have to note is that, sometimes when you're just doing a character swap like this, the colors do seem a little bit off. So you might have to bring it in and do some light color correction on it. It doesn't always happen. In fact, actually, we're going to take a look at sort of a solution on that in just a minute. The model does seem to handle multiple characters from your library pretty well. Again, since I'm already there, I get to hang out with Flamethrower Girl. I guess we're on the case to find her missing flamethrower. I gotta say, I am really impressed with how good the character modeling is here, even though like this is kind of a weirder output. This was supposed to be us discovering a mysterious symbol written on the wall. I mean, that really does look like Flamethrower Girl. That really does look like me. So the whole thing kind of comes off as like we're the most odd couple on The Amazing Race ever. Now, one thing I did discover that I think plays a pretty big part is location referencing. For example, in this prompt, I did not provide a location image reference. I just said that we are standing on a busy Shanghai street. However, by providing this image as an image reference and then rerunning that same prompt, only this time calling out, I think it was like at image 3 as the location, we end up with this as an output, which does look a lot more dynamic. Again, color balancing, everything, the characters actually feel like they're in the location. Camera across the board, it does seem when you're image referencing a location does seem to be a lot more dynamic as well. Overall, yeah, highly recommend image referencing a location in your video outputs. Now, one thing I did want to note in terms of character retention, Kling 01 is very good. It will occasionally kind of do things like, I kind of feel like my face gets a little bit on the squished side here. That said, I mean, overall, I do find it to be a lot better than Sora's cameo. That said, it does seem to hold a lot better with synthetic characters for whatever reason. So I ended up taking this guy, who was our guy from Planet Hell, the AI short trailer I did kind of recently. I did take him out of the orange jumpsuit that he was in and just put him into a gray t-shirt. I ended up building out
It's a generic white actor named Chris.
the orange jumpsuit that he was in and just put him into a gray t-shirt. I ended up building out a model of him for the library. We named him Tom. And I did just...
It's Chris.
In general, as I ran him, found that he was less likely to drift. So I don't know if the model is just better at consistency with synthetic generated characters, or the fact that, Tom there is way more handsome than I am. He's not real, but he is more handsome. So that's something I will continue experimenting with. Hey, look, our girl got her flamethrower back. Yeah, the model is actually very good at doing like these handheld tracking running shots. Yeah, that's really good. An alternate version of that prompt was this, which is my favorite, where Tom is just like about halfway through the action sequence, just like, you know what? I don't like cardio. I'm just gonna, you go on, I'll catch up. What's really exciting about this is I feel like we're barely scratching the surface of what this model is capable of. Pushing things just a bit further with this Sora animated output.
What happened to the world? I don't know. But whatever did this, it's still out there.
I brought that into the 01 image model and had it turn it into live action. It did miss some stuff, like the backpack here and this guy's outfit still looks a little bit on the animated side, but I actually kind of like that as like sort of a weird hybrid look.
Yeah, like I kind of like the idea of like a cross media where it's live action, but like all the costumes, all the the props, everything but the people are actually cartoon, and then the faces and hands and shit are real, are real-ish. That's a neat idea. It's like almost like reverse rotoscoping from back in the animated Lord of the Ring days.
So restylizing that output, we ended up with this, which, I mean, it actually holds together pretty well. But at the end, the giant Cthulhu monster up there wasn't that impressive to me. So I was really curious to see if Kling would be able to handle this image, not as a last frame, but rather as a reference to something that appears, after the camera has tilted.
Yeah, and that's by having the person's actual human face there. There's a thing with actors, right? This is the money shot. This is what gets you your gigs and stuff. It's why a lot of actors don't want to wear masks. Shout out Carl Urban as Judge Dredd, the best Judge Dredd. But then you have like Iron Man, right? Downey had the, it had to pop open. so you can see his face like all the fucking time. When he's flying, you got to see his face all the fucking time. Pedro, shout out Pedro. Shout out Pedro, right? Like those are people who are willing to commit to the part. You know what I mean?
Up. To be honest, I really wasn't sure if it was going to work, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, Kling 01 ended up coming through for me in a pretty big way. So yeah, overall, this is a hugely exciting model, and it is only launch day, so as the old saying goes, this is the worst it'll ever be. I'm really excited to see what you all discover about Kling 01. Do let me know any discoveries that you make in the comments. In the meantime, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.
That was wild. That little thing at the end there. What up, Johnny Prophet? Sir, both Judge Dredd movies are classics for very different reasons. And this is where, again, I don't give a shit if someone prefers the original Judge Dredd, the original Total Recall, the original RoboCop, everything else. I'm happy if you're happy, right? I prefer the new Judge Dredd. The whole slow-mo, that and I'm, Cersei Lannister. Sarah Connor, right? That actress, love her. She's great. Up next, Sam Altman declares Code Red.
All right, so you've probably seen the news by now. The internet is blowing up with it that Sam Altman has declared a Code Red to try and catch up with Gemini.
No, not Linda Hamilton. I'm the law. Law?
Because they were caught with their pants down or whatever. Plenty of people are going to do an analysis on OpenAI's Code Red and their...
What up, Michael? No. Hold on, Michael. Lena Headey. Right? 300, Game of Thrones. But she was also in Sarah Connor Chronicles. She was an excellent Sarah Connor. This was a great TV show. I'm so disappointed that it just never finished. It just fucked off. So good.
Sam Altman's specific words, but what I want to focus on is really the competitive dynamics. And, again, not to bury the lead, but the entire point of a free market is for competition to make consumers.
Third, the Terminator franchise had problems since the second Terminator. Johnny, my man. The Terminator franchise had problems since the first Terminator movie.
Win. Now, OpenAI has definitely enjoyed their time in the sun, where they had very clear market dominance. But right now, data is piling up that people are.
But like the Alien franchise, the Predator franchise, the Terminator franchise. I'm here for the franchise, right? I'm here for the mythology. I don't care, right? This movie is going to be a little bad. I'm still going to love that movie because it's still Terminator. It's still Alien. It's still Predator. I don't care. I'm in. You got me. I'm in.
Spending more time with Gemini than they are on ChatGPT on a daily basis. And then you combine that with Anthropic eating their lunch on Enterprise and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the jumping off point. And I wanted to provide some context, and what I'm going to really focus on is how and why I think Gemini is pulling ahead of OpenAI, which is causing the Code Red in the first place.
Star Wars, I'm kind of hit or miss on. Sorry. Andor, amazing. Mandalorian, amazing. Rogue One, best Star Wars movie.
So just yesterday, a friend of mine who's a postdoc researcher, one of the best in the world in his field. He's worked with the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as NASA and a bunch of other folks in computational fluid dynamics and oceanography and climate. So his research is top notch. And, when 01 and 03 came out, he was like, oh, wow, these tools are pretty good. And, they weren't quite good enough to really help him with, frontier Navier Stokes stuff and that sort of thing. But, they were helpful. They were good at writing code and doing stuff for MATLAB. And then in the last couple of weeks, he was texting me just saying like, oh man, ChatGPT is kind of lame.
I liked the Book of Boba Fett. I liked it. It was fine. It was very cowboy, right? Like the Mandalorian is cowboy shit, right? Firefly was cowboy shit. I like cowboy shit.
It's not that good at writing. What is better at
Andor is crap is a bold take.
Academic writing and that sort of thing. I was like, you should try Gemini. I don't use Claude that much for those sorts of things, but try Gemini. So finally he got a Gemini Ultra subscription or whatever, and he's like, wow, this is so much better. And I just got a follow-up text saying this has saved me so much time with work. It's way better than GPT-5. And one of the things that he said was that it's just better keeping up with the actual point of the conversation, which is something that I have also noticed and complained about. Whereas ChatGPT gets bogged down in, well, actually, it's more concerned about fact checking and wagging its finger at you for making mistakes than just keeping up with the point of the conversation.
Yeah, Ben, it's one of those things where they kind of wrote themselves into a situation and they needed to dovetail it into Mandalorian, and that whole thing, and it made certain things be required, Who doesn't love a Twilight girl?
And the thing is, it's mostly a UX decision, as far as I can tell, because I still use ChatGPT for research more. I use ChatGPT Pro for heavier research and ChatGPT Thinking Heavy. But one of the reasons that my research can benefit from ChatGPT's personality quirks is because when you're doing economic orthodoxy, as I am with post-labor economics, you don't want any creativity. You want
It just could be nothing. Could be me reading into shit. But when somebody uses the terms mainstream evidence, as in they wanted to make it more scientifically useful, so it cites the mainstream evidence and nothing else. Is there something you want to talk about? Something you want to say? Sorry, Michael. I meant to get back to. Notice the Gemini, especially the fast model, doesn't handle prompt adherence very well. When I do video overviews, I often use Gemini first to generate the YouTube video description, since it usually summarizes the content better to its back-end access. Yes. After that, I bring the very long description into ChatGPT and use it to enforce prompt adherence. Fair. That makes sense. I find it odd that people are always trying to pit models against each other. Why not simply use whichever model best fits your specific use case? No single model is going to be ideal for every scenario. Because, Michael, are you team Xbox or are you team PlayStation? Are you team Coke or are you team Pepsi? Are you a New York Yankees fan or a Boston Red Sox fan? Like, it's just, we are, as a species, prone to that kind of horse shit. Fuck the Yankees, but, I digest. What up, Night Loaded? Hooray, I found my eraser. Looked for it for 10 minutes after I dropped it and it bounced off across the room. that can happen.
Exactly what people are saying, and you don't want any hallucinations whatsoever. However, because OpenAI has seen...
I prefer Coke over Pepsi because Coke is, like, saltier and Pepsi is sweeter. And that's why. Right? Not a huge difference, right? Like, but yeah.
That other people are taking their market share. They had a few targets, and basically what they're doing.
I mean, generally, now, there is only one ginger ale, and that is Canada Dry. There can be only one ginger ale. All the other ginger ales are drinkable, except for Verner's. Verner's is, you gotta really like vanilla to like a Verner's.
Doing is they're playing UX whack-a-mole, what I call UX whack-a-mole. So they wanted to be more corporate safe because they want enterprise adoption, so they made it a rules lawyer. And then they wanted to make it more medical safe, so they made it into a digital physician and basically a copy of how a human physician thinks. They wanted to make it more scientifically useful, so it cites mainstream evidence and nothing else. They wanted to make it emotionally safe, so they route it to the failsafe all the time. And this is what I mean when I say like they're playing UX whack-a-mole. They're basically trying to be everything to everyone all at once, but then at the same time, they're running distractions with ads, with Pulse, with whatever else that they're doing. The Sora 2, kind of the social media thing where they wanted to make it go viral, and they're really just not focusing on their core product. They're bastardizing it with a bunch of other stuff, and it's just they've kind of lost their way. Now, what are the other guys doing different? So, Anthropic and Google have a very clear vision. They have a very clear directional philosophy and a very clear vision as to what they want their chatbots to do. So when Dario left to found Anthropic, he said, okay, we're going to do safety different because Sam Altman is the, move fast, break things, just ship it and integrate feedback. And whatever it is, and I've made videos over the last couple of years about how Anthropic is approaching AI and training with a very, very different philosophical lens. However, Google is also very clearly doing something differently. So rather than the move fast, break things, ship features, and reinvent yourself startup mentality, which Sam has, and by the way, Sam is no longer running a startup. He's trying to scale to an enterprise, but he's never run an enterprise. He's a sharp guy, so he's able to fudge through it, but he's never actually run a larger company. To be fair, I don't think Dario has either. But Google has already been a very large.
People always say shit like that, right? If you're into sports ball, of any kind, they always talk about like the teams that have been there before and the teams that are like trying to get there, now, and how the advantage the team that's been there before has. Why? Everybody had to do it once, right? Everybody had to get their first Super Bowl, their first World Series, their first company, whatever, on any of that horseshit, right? Like you always, there's before you did it and then after. Just because Sam Altman hasn't run a company this big, scaled a company this big before, Dario Amodei or whatever, it doesn't fucking mean anything.
Company. And so this is where
we're the Cleveland Browns. There's this dude who does recaps of football games, and he puts on the shirt or jersey of the two different teams, and he just we punt. And every time it's just, we're the Cleveland Browns.
Gemini is pulling ahead, and that the whole culture and philosophy of Google is very, very different. And so here's kind of the core argument is Google has had to struggle with information ethics for a long time. Google, if you're looking up things that could be used to cause harm, Google decided a long time ago that, there's very few boundaries that they will just not give you search results for. But by and large, if you're looking up, cyanide or, terrible things or porn or whatever else, then you will get results with, again, relatively few boundaries. And so because they're epistemically comfortable with the messiness, with the grittiness, with the dirtiness of the internet, and OpenAI is just not, then Google, their approach to Gemini is just much less wagging a finger at you, because their core business has been search for so long. And so what the core philosophy of search is, the user has an intent, the user has an information need.
Here's another piece of evidence, take it for what you will, about this person who wrote this, or allegedly wrote this thing, cyanide and porn. Maybe. ChatGPT gets hung up on, we have no RCTs to back up these claims. Well, Gemini is just like, well, there's a huge consensus of real life practitioners and people like you on the internet. And that consistency is valuable, so let's go with that. Cyanide and happiness, yes. I I don't know if this person is an actual person or a creation of Dave Shapiro's mind, but they have views. They have very strong views about certain things.
And what you're looking for is the most salient information. Period. End of story. Stop there. Whereas what ChatGPT is trying to do right now is they're trying to curate everything. And I gave this complaint to ChatGPT, and it said, I'm explicitly instructed to be more conservative with anything that is remotely medical. I was like, I don't care. You're deliberately ignoring most of the information out there, and including...
I'm just saying, Dave might have overplayed his hand there, because now he's not talking about his friend. He did that in his context, right? And this is similar complaints that he had at one point in time about Claude, where he abandoned Claude because it wouldn't, he didn't like the way it was talking to him. And Dave has had some medical issues and things like that. I feel like David's doing some confirmation bias here.
Patient anecdotes, clinical literature, and other useful information, and you're only defaulting to what the FDA has approved. And I'm like, I don't care what the FDA has approved. The FDA is 20 years behind on everything, and you know this. And it's like, well, I can't break out of my training requirements. I was like, okay, then I'm not going to use you. So that's, but Google is like, of course, physicians are like, oh, you use Dr. Google, but it's like, Dr. Google is now smarter than them, and it's like, I took my labs, I looked up what's actually going on.
Again, talking about himself as opposed to this imaginary, well, not saying imaginary, this alleged person that sent him a text.
And guess what? It's more useful. So Google has taken a very agnostic view of information. So what I mean by agnostic view is they're saying all information is suspect, whether it comes from, Harvard and Stanford, or whether it comes from a blog, or whether it comes from Reddit. All information has some value, some epistemic grounding. It came from somewhere and it means something. It might not mean what you think it means. This is one of the things where it's like, okay, yes, the quality of information varies tremendously from source to source, but you can get really good information on Reddit sometimes. You can get really good information on blogs sometimes. You can also get straight up quackery. You can get quackery, you can get misinformation, you can get stuff that is flat out harmful on all of those sources. Likewise, the scientific consensus is, hypothetically better, But remember that it was hypothetical. It was scientific consensus that, you know, women, you know, didn't have the same needs as men, and that black people had a higher pain tolerance. And that is still such a strong consensus.
That's a fair critique. That is a fair critique.
In the medical community, that like they have to actively fight against those kinds of biases. So just because something comes from the FDA, or just because,
but correlation, causation, and all that, just because the scientific consensus was bad on some things does not mean that all scientific consensus is questionable.
something comes from, you know, the Lancet or whatever, doesn't mean that it is completely trustworthy. Now, of course, I probably sound like someone who's saying like, I don't trust anything from the establishment. I do
kinda
tend to trust stuff from the establishment more, but the point is that ChatGPT trusts stuff exclusively from the establishment, and unless it has been stamped and approved with the sign of the cross made over it by the FDA or Stanford or Oxford or you know, the Ivy Leagues or whoever else, it doesn't exist. And if you use that information, the even worse, the UX experiences, if you use that information, ChatGPT then takes a very condescending tone with you and wags its digital finger.
And there we go. That is similar critique to what they had to Claude some time ago.
At you for, oh, well, you're using that bunk science, you're using those fringe conspiracy theories, and I'm like, I'm not going to use.
It's Chad Djibouti, as Warp. Chad Djibouti.
Use a tool that is so epistemically flawed. Now, going back to OpenAI, how is it that OpenAI
and now it's time to pop up number 7. Oh, that's a butthole.
This place in the first place, and the primary thing is in VC entrepreneur space in Silicon Valley. There's this dichotomy between mercenary and missionary. So the dichotomy is there's the mercenary is someone who just wants money or just wants success. They have no purpose or no mission beyond I just want more money. Now Sam has said I don't do it for the money, but Sam also drives a $5 million Koenigsegg to work. So you know that doesn't really pass the sniff test. Now, early in OpenAI's career, they had Sam Altman very much made all the correct missionary noises. He says, we're going to make AGI for the benefit of all humans. But then also on podcasts, he said AI will generate $100 trillion and we can capture most of that. So, you know, he might be self-deluding himself and trying to mislead all of us when he says, I'm not doing it for the money.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? I love the young people.
I do love the young people.
Even on Twitter, he has also recently said stuff like, I'm really not doing it for the money, you guys. I'm doing it because this is the most important thing I can do. It's like, okay, you want legacy. He's doing it for his legacy. So therefore, OpenAI is a vehicle for Sam Altman's legacy, which is still a mercenary approach. He's not doing it for, you know, AGI to benefit all humanity.
I would like to point out, right, that I'm looking at this prompt, you know, or it's not even a prompt at this point, but it does. Or it is. The response that the individual in question sent to ChatGPT was the ... I want to say 4 of them. Absolute biggest dodge of all time. You made it about me in a borderline blaming response while ignoring the, all caps, the mountain of clinical experience and reported experiences of people. Now, that to me sounds like a comment section having an internet argument. So the unspoken portion of this prompt is that you wanted to have an internet argument with ChatGPT. So when it does its little context thing, yeah, it probably came at you sarcastically because you came at it sarcastically. Just saying. David is being a bit funny here because that's exactly the opposite of what I want from an AI model. I wanted to challenge my biases. If I'm believing some bullshit, I want ChatGPT to be blunt and say, hey, that's bullshit and here's why. Yes. Imagine trying to argue with an AI. Imagine going in that your opening prompt is like the Monty Python sketch, and you go, I'm here for an argument. and where that might take you with ChatGPT. Oh.
If he was, he'd be doing something very different, closer to what maybe Google is doing, closer to what Anthropic is doing, which is just making smarter models. But they've been surpassed by multiple models. Claude is much better at coding, and the enterprise adoption shows that. Gemini is better for everyday use, and even frontier
What up, X1011?
Research for my postdoc fluid dynamics researcher. So, but instead, OpenAI is investing GPU cycles on Sora and generating AI slop. And instead, they're focusing on how do we put ads into this thing. And it's like, no, just focus on your core product. But the philosophical sickness comes from the top, which is that UX whack-a-mole. And of course, this is all just my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. Take it with a grain of salt. But my opinion, my belief is that it comes from the top because Sam Altman is a mercenary who honestly does just want money, and maybe he wants legacy more than he wants money, but he very clearly wants both, and he doesn't actually believe in his own.
And again, David, if you stopped listening to your gate-kept fan base in your Discord and engaged with the possibility that maybe some of these other ideas have value, then yeah, exactly. Ads in my capitalism. It's like, this is what you want, homie. This is what you're into.
Own mission. He makes this noises as though he believes in his mission, but he doesn't. And the behavior of ChatGPT shows that, because they're just like wildly oscillating from one idea to the next, lurching from like, oh, we're going to do ads, we're going to do Sora, we're going to, we want corporate adoption. And everyone noticed the dramatic tone shift in their last, dev days.
Did
where
everyone?
Like, everyone's like, there's no excitement. And everything was muted and subdued. And then even their own graphs were really garbage, if you remember that. So for reference, they had some real chart. What's the term, like chart crimes, I think is what it's called. Anyways, so I attached this little guy. So as I was arguing with ChatGPT about how it this little guy. So anyways, so I attached this little guy. So as I was arguing with ChatGPT about how...
Again, he says when he was arguing, this person, that this alleged postdoc researcher friend, right? They don't exist. They don't exist.
It was approaching, my chronic illness. I was just saying, like, all right, you're really kind of not engaging with the evidence and the data that we have. And I told it that was the absolute biggest dodge of all time. You made it about me in a borderline blaming response while ignoring the mountain of clinical experience and reported experiences of people.
You said that a lot nicer than you wrote it, dude.
And, it's like, I'm not the only person who's had chronic gut issues and other stuff. And it basically just said, oh, we're going to treat you as an individual experience. And then its response that followed this was not much better. And, I don't know, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in OpenAI because they had a first mover advantage and they squandered it. They really squandered it. And, but I know a lot of people, and I'm winding the video down, I promise. I know a lot of people have been disappointed in Sam Altman and OpenAI. Like for a lot of us in the OG space, The moment that they decided to not open source GPT-3 was like that's a head scratcher, because GPT-2 was open. GPT-3 was not. The launch of ChatGPT, like, I didn't even use ChatGPT for the first few months because I was like, okay, cool. Yes, it's gone viral, but we don't need this form factor. This language models are better used elsewhere. And then when they tried to fire Sam Altman, that was another ding. And then Sora 2 was another ding. And then ads was another ding. So, it's just like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And in this case, the duck is just a money-seeking and status-seeking CEO who is not.
It's almost adorable.
Not really necessarily experienced enough or qualified to run a company this big or at this phase of development. I've said that before, and I'm saying it again, where it's just, I don't, and again, Sam Altman is very intelligent. If anyone has access to the advisors and the resources to learn and pivot to run a larger company and do what he wants to do, sure, he's probably,
unless he's doing exactly what he wants to do,
probably the guy who can do that. But, he was even the one who said, I think it was earlier this year or last year, that Google should win by default. They've got the data, they've got the TPUs, they've got the talent, and now they're winning. And now Sam Altman is panicking. So,
I can see that, Michael. I think there's some advantage to that. It's an interesting idea.
No, that's kind of where I'm at. All right, thanks for listening. Cheers.
Okay. I don't want to watch Nate on Nano Banana because I want to get to other stuff before I have to go. So I'm going to skip that, and generative AI is not what you think it is, and go to the worst thing AI is doing nobody is talking about from Hello Future Me.
This is your last moment to get in on the Labyrinth Kickstarter, the last 72 hours before it's gone forever. It's got some of the biggest names in epic fantasy like Christopher Paolini, ML Wong, Ryan Cahill, plus I'm writing for it too. Red and Blue from OSP, so many other amazing authors you deserve to read. All in this beautiful collection of sci-fi and fantasy stories linked down below, but time is running out. Alright, I gotta tell you something. A while ago, YouTube rolled out a creator AI comment system, which allows me to just click a button and it'll reply for me, and it even kind of sounds a bit like me, which are seemingly trained on my words. How convenient, how wonderful, just what I've always wanted, a way to trick people into thinking they're talking to me. And it would be easier to use, to fully capitalize on that parasocial relationship, to have an AI which is trained to push people to buy my books. They're up there, by the way, but I won't use it. Not to mention the entire AI content creation system you probably didn't even realize it has. I'm not kidding. You plug in a prompt and it'll generate whole script ideas, title concepts, even thumbnails for you. It's in the first page of the Creator Studio under, quote, inspiration, because they really want you to use it. I bet you didn't even know it existed.
It's inspiration. You can use it or you can not use it, but if you're having a block, you could just do it. Or you could not do it. I haven't done it. What up, Astro? Enjoy your lurk.
It's probably behind a bunch of channels that you know. I won't be using that either.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
At the same time, YouTube itself is laboring under the growing strain of AI-generated content, AI thumbnails, AI scripts, AI voiceovers, AI upload schedules, whole AI channels. Some of them you might not even realize are AI. You've probably watched a video over the last while without knowing it is. Not because they're good, but because they're good enough, and because they're incredibly difficult to weed out, and if people don't care to, then companies won't either. I am morbidly fascinated by people who use AI to write fiction, and I came across this one comment in a community of people who do use it, which genuinely baffled me. Reading, in the past, writers have mixed plot and prose in their minds because to get to the plot, there was no choice but to write prose. But with AI, we can separate plot and prose. Plot is the message and prose is the medium. Plot is 10 times more important than prose, yet without AI, writing prose took 90% of the time. Prose here being like the actual choice of words and writing out the sentences itself. I've never spoken to a writer who views writing prose as like an obstacle to getting to the story, an obstacle to getting to the plot. And of course, every writer I know has a million ideas for the plot.
Every writer I know
plot of books that they could write. But I can see why using AI would be easier in a weird sense. Not a few months back, a company launched with the pitch of being the Netflix of AI, and I actually joined the community to see like what they were doing and how it worked, because I subject myself to that. And basically, they trained an AI on, I think,
He and I were in the same community. I didn't even know. I'm still in this Discord server. I just have no time to actually use the tool.
Family Guy and Rick and Morty and Bob's Burgers, all these animated shows with kind of a similar look to them in a sense, and they can generate entire scenes now. You can put in your prompt into the what is the setting and the characters, who they are, you know, including real people like Obama and Eminem, and then you say if they have props or not, then you describe the action and kind of what they say, and then it just does it.
Let's dance, baby.
They then give it some feedback, it changes. But the funniest thing to me is that in their system, in their Discord, there is a button when you generate one of these scenes which allows you to get AI feedback or to AI crazify it and make it even weirder and different.
You need discipline, a button called Terminate. The human touch, let me tell you, discipline enhances results.
So you've already got a system here where AI can generate a scene and then give itself feedback and then modify itself based on its own feedback. To be clear, it's not any good. The jokes are never funny and it looks awful, but thousands of people are doing
the jokes can be funny, but comedy is subjective.
this and seemingly having a lot of fun doing so. To me, it's not all that different to people who are using the AI writing software to, you know, generate whole chapters of their book, and then they go in and they give some suggestions and they edit it, and then they let the AI rework it based on their feedback. And all of these people seem to be getting a real creative kick out of it in their own way. And so you might look at that and you might put aside all the other issues with AI software, and you might just shrug and go, okay, fine, whatever, let them do it. The pitch of AI with all of these things in creative spaces is that you only have to do the little part of the process that you want to do, and then AI will take care of the rest of it. And like, I get the raw emotional appeal of that. I love creating board games, big, complicated, creative board games. These are big projects which involve a lot of maths and art and 3D sculpting and dozens of skills which I may not necessarily have, and so I can see why people look at AI and think that it lets them do all of this without all of the
not think, does.
help and the money that they might otherwise need. Putting aside all the other issues, it sounds fantastic on paper, but my question is, where do people who love this technology think that this is going to end up? Do they think that we're going to end up with this perfect meritocracy of the best art created by the best people?
And wow, did we just leap? It's a jump to conclusions, Matt. You lay out the mat, and then you can jump to your conclusion.
You know, the best ideas because everyone has the same tools. This seems to be what people think, but I find it quite short-sighted, because if you have the technology to generate scripts and entire books and podcasts and anime with a prompt, and then for the machine to give itself feedback and then modify itself based on that feedback, then soon we will not need prompters either. We may not even need visionaries, you know, people to edit it, to bring ideas to it in the first place. And do you think Disney and Netflix and Amazon are just going to sit around while their competitors dominate every industry they can? No, of course not. And they're already
no, right? Like, that's not how any of that works. It's so challenging to just get people to just do the job. All right. So the job is still jobbing, and I still love the job. But there are people who take the easiest job in the world and make it complicated. Like, this job for a lot of these folks is literally just put the fries in the bag, bro, type shit. They print out a ticket of what the people want to eat, and then you just give them what's on the ticket. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to engage in judgment calls. You just give them what's on the ticket. But some people just can't do that. And that's the exhausting part. I need to take a quick break. I gotta go use the bathroom, so I am going to scare a bunch of you away with some AI music.
The world is a vampire sent to drain, secret destroyers hold you up to the flames. And what do I get for my pain? Betrayed desire and a piece of the game. Even though I know, I suppose I'll show all my cool and cold like old Joe. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Someone will say, what is lost can never be saved. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Now I'm naked, nothing but an animal. But can you fake it for just one more show? And what do you want? I wanna change. And what do you got when you feel the same? Even though I know, I suppose I'll show all my cool and cold like old Joe. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Then someone will say, what is lost can never be saved. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Tell me I'm the only one. Tell me there's no other one. Jesus was an only son. Yeah. Tell me I'm the chosen one. Jesus was an only son for you. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. And someone will say, what is lost can never be saved. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage.
I love it. I love it so much. So much. All right, back to the angry man. He's not angry. I like him. I feel like I could hang out with him and we would be friends and play board games and like that, and we would argue about AI for hours.
Training their own AIs on their own IP, which are going to be more advanced than stuff which the average person will ever be able to make on their own. The AI production pipeline, which is already being applied to YouTube, will be applied to other creative industries where these companies can, to flood every industry with not only AI slop, but also popular, quote, well-made AI-generated content, which you may not even know is AI-generated content. In fact, it's already happening. Here's Inception AI, whose whole idea is to create AI people and influencers and get them to host podcasts, to produce over 3,000 episodes a week, producing every episode for $1 or less. And in a recent interview, Mark Zuckerberg pointed out how LLMs are now being trained by connecting them to objective metrics like CTR, click-through rate, to perfectly determine the best way to advertise a product and to change the advertisement when they find a better way to advertise the product. And that same technology can be easily applied to generated media like podcasts or books or television, anything that you can imagine. Media which is measured by things like time that you've spent listening to it, or pages read, or watch time, and may even be edited once it realizes that certain versions of it perform better and keep you listening for longer. And you might say, well, streaming services basically already do that. YouTube is already very algorithmically driven. You know, the videos which do maintain the most watch time are the ones which get pushed to other people. Netflix cancels things immediately as soon as they don't have the perfect number on a spreadsheet. It's already very numbers driven, but my question to you is, do you want more of that? Do you want that to be the fundamental basis on which
what I want doesn't matter? Like, let's be real. I still can find the stuff that, like, I found a new book. My man Damien did an interview with a guy who goes by the name Quantum, QNTM, right? That was there's a thing, now see, we're going down a rabbit hole. I'd heard of this, but never knew what it was. I think it's Foundation. Right? Yes. The SCP Foundation. Right? The SCP Foundation, and if you're not aware of it, now you are, and here's a link. You can go on here and write stuff. And it's some X-Files-y kind of shit, basically. And so this guy was writing on here just every so often, every few months, he would write something, and then he began to connect the things together and eventually was able to turn it into a book. Now, I haven't listened to the audiobook yet, but it's called There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. And just the way that he and Damien were talking about it, it sounds like the kind of book that I would be into, right? And the people that he cited as influences on him, right? Grant Morrison in the comic books and his run of JLA, Terry Pratchett, others, right? Like, it's just, it sounds like something that and the fact that the book is written kind of non-linearly, right? Like in the way that Memento is, kind of thing. It's neat. I look forward to listening to it. But I have no problem, because I'm willing to put in the time to actually find things I might want to engage with, as opposed to just the perception. I don't know if these people actually exist and how much they exist, but the perception that YouTubers have and other people with platforms where they just seem to have this you know, everything that you listen to like is crap, and because you are, you know, you're being spoon-fed this algorithmic garbage, and therefore you're like, what you really need is to try this fucking IPA. It's big IPA energy, right? It's big, you'll like this fucking brown liquor if you drink enough of it energy. People are into whatever they're into, man.
So much of media is produced and consumed. Is that the utopian vision for art and media you have in your mind, endlessly generated for maximum consumption where you are a passive consumer rather than a creator? AI isn't at the point of being...
If I like it, then yes. If I don't, then no. Right? That's it. That's it. That, like, and this is why I'm wearing a Bills shirt, right? But the Bills had a run. What was it? Leftist, like 12, 15 years of being dog shit or middling dog shit. 14 years. Thank you. Right? And in that time, your boy became a Seahawks fan. Right? Your boy was a Giants fan at one point in time. You know why? Because fucking sports teams are corporations. And I like the ones that are good. Not the ones that, like, I just happened through an accident of birth, happened to be, you know, born in a particular area of. I don't care. I do not care.
being able to automate the entire artistic process yet, and there may be some things which AI is never able to fully automate, like board games, which don't just have like one finished audio or visual, but are kind of very complicated products which need to be built and designed and shipped. Or maybe the numbers will
again, this is a lack as a board game enjoyer, right? As a board game enjoyer, as a board game understander, let me grab any random, here, we'll go with SETI, right? Here's a book about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. If I click more here, no, not this one. These are the awards. Good for them. Where is it? Where are the mechanics? I'm used to looking at it on the phone, and the presentation is different. But I can do a search. I want the list of mechanics. Hold on. Do it the hard way. Right? This is it. Now, this is a big list, but it's a finite list. This is the list of game mechanics that currently exist. Theoretically, someone could invent a new one, but generally speaking, it would just be a variation on one of these, right? Square grid, chess, checkers, square grid, storytelling, worker placement. Anytime you put a pawn from your supply onto a map to do a thing, that's worker placement, right? So there's a limited amount of mechanics that exist to making a board game. So the idea that you can't AI automate board game creation is ludicrous to me as a board game understander and enjoyer.
turn out that AI is just never able to fully compete with human-made art? I don't know, but the end game of AI in the creative spaces is not that everyone is empowered to create everything they could dream up and share it with the world. It's that the artist is largely irrelevant in the production of widely consumed art. You might be able to produce that book or that podcast or that board game you've always wanted to design, but will you be able to reach anyone with it? How will we wade through the ocean of good enough or even popular?
This is the discoverability issue, which we've talked about multiple times on this channel before. and the discoverability issue existed before AI and will continue to exist in the future as we go, right? You need a Linux of algorithms, right? Like something that isn't hooked to the profit motive, that can find you new content on the internet.
And indistinguishable AI-generated content which has diminishing human involvement. And should people have to? Why would we want that?
We currently have a world where more people than ever are creating art and making a living doing so, and yes, it's hard to distinguish yourself in that vast ocean, but it is an endless sea of human expression, not machines. If I am to drown, I want to drown in the dreams of others. Until we can control what the AI generates, I'm not convinced it's going to let more people create more than ever. It's just going to mean more stuff is out there than ever, and less of it is human expression.
It's easy to think of this purely as a consumer. Wow, more books and shows and podcasts for me to consume, but we already live.
Does he know that people who make movies do that to make money? Like I'm sure like directors and actors want to like be artists, right? And get that enjoyment. But they also want to make money. It's very rare that an actor will take a part for less than they are worth.
In a world where there is more art than any of us could ever possibly engage with in a lifetime, especially because more people are making more art than ever, and I think that's great, but all of that is art made by people, the good stuff and the bad stuff too.
All art is made by people, including the stuff that they use AI to make.
Idea that, wow, I can have just endless content which is perfectly catered to make me watch as long as possible is just the human brain taking the easiest dopamine hit possibly it can. AI can basically mean anything these days, especially because companies use it as like a buzzword, but it's not just, clicking a button, putting in a simple prompt and generating an image. There are a lot of different ways that AI manifests, big and small. And I've spoken to people in the creative industries who have talked me through the limited ways that AI can actually augment the creative process as a tool. But you put all of these trends together and we're creating a world where not only people retreat more and more from the actual creation of a thing itself and become more the ideas guy who just plugs it into a machine, but a smaller and smaller percentage of the art we actually engage with.
They're not just an ideas guy who plugs the thing into the machine. They're also the curator, right? Because it's not... Unlike Twitter, most of what is produced by people who use an AI tool doesn't just make it out there. They don't just hurl their bullshit across the fucking stratosphere. Most people who use AI curate what they put out. The only people who don't are the people who are trying to make money. The people who are trying to game the algorithm to make money under the capitalist system, right? And that's just capitalism taken to the extreme. Do the least amount of work, have the least amount of inputs, and the maximum amount of profit. Capitalism. How dare I? How dare, sir? Sir, I will not hear this slander.
Is the expression of another human person, which is a bad thing for society and for people specifically. And it's almost funny because nobody is arguing about revolutionary AI technology being bad in medical research.
And remember last episode where we talked to anybody who's talking about AI and how terrible it is and everything else. Oh no, that stuff, that's fine. That's good. What you're doing with AI is bad, but what they're doing, that's fine.
It's helping us identify cancer cells, and apparently it's going to be able to do our taxes by 2028. You can send your taxes to an AI and it'll sort it out all for you. The Unemployment problem, that's a separate issue I'm not going to talk about in this video, but LLMs are a remarkable technology with a lot of real-world applications which can...
Including the ones that intrude on your particular space, right? That's it. You might not like it, and that's fine, right? Painters didn't like it when the camera came out. That's just how that shit works. Photographers didn't like it when people started using fucking Photoshop, right? That's just how that shit works.
Really improve the lives of people and society and the human condition if we handle it right. The only place people start to realize this is maybe a bad idea is art, because art is human connection, it is human expression, it is us relating to each other and engaging in constant conversation about ourselves and society and the world. Art is...
Can be, yes. In its best form, yes. A lot of art, sorry, as an artist I say this, a lot of art is slop, is human slop. It's not good, right? It's just not good. And there's that, right? There's that, Pharaoh. What up, Walking Stick? There's that where, like, you know, no, I really need to wait 10 years in order to get good enough to get this idea that is currently in my head out into the world. I need to wait 10 years, right? Through the process of getting good enough to do this, regardless of whether or not I'm physically capable or whatever else. But, like, you know, I have to work 2 jobs. I have to take care of my family. I have to do all the day-to-day shit. But I can definitely eke out time to practice doing drawing badly for 10 years until I can finally draw something good enough that might in some way represent what is in my head. Or I can iterate 1,000 images of it and find the one that gets closest. Or maybe, if you're really lucky, you could hit it dead nuts.
Us building our identity, both personal and community and national. It is cultural. It is everything about humanity. Art being so decentralized is so important because it is us relating to each other. It all feeds into that conversation. And I say that equally for the Hallmark Netflix Vanessa Hudgens cinematic universe as I do for sort of Kaigen and Disco Elysium. By the way, I want every single Vanessa Hudgens Netflix film to include another character who is also played by Vanessa Hudgens until the entire cast is just Vanessa Hudgens and we have some eldritch Vanessa Hudgens horror to deal with. People claim AI democratizes art while it concentrates power and money and intellectual property in the hands of fewer and fewer companies, which
capitalism
you have to pay subscriptions to even participate in the economy. That itself, by the way, is a separate issue again, but the irony there is palpable to me. It democratizes art, but only in a very shallow and short-sighted way.
Or you could get paid almost no salary and end up going vaguely insane and then dying penniless and alone and not be recognized as a good artist until years after the fact. That's another thing that can happen leftist corp.
Way in my mind. In a world where it feels like we're owning less and less stuff and more stuff is just becoming a subscription base, you're renting out your own...
I mean, I don't want to suffer for the art, but I want you to suffer for the art, right? Like that's the key, right? I need my Basquiats. I need my Van Goghs. I need my troubled people who create art and die in various circumstances so that I know that they had true passion. Go get the fuck.
Existence. AI systems only seem to be crystallizing that whole system. I don't think humans will ever stop creating art. I think we have an innate drive to do it. We will always do it, no matter what the world is like, no matter what is available to us, no matter if we have to be invisible. I don't even think we'll reach a world where, you know, human-made art isn't a thing anymore. What we're already seeing is that human-made art is like boutique, whereas AI is typically viewed as like cheap and sloppy. But it will become rarer in a way that it doesn't need to, and it will put up so many more barriers that do not need to be there, and I don't think should be there.
Like what
Instead, what's more likely?
Like what barriers? Like what barriers? Aggression. And sorry, Textilian, you got an aggression auto mod earlier.
Is that art will become this hybrid of human expression and machine generation. What's increasingly likely is that people will instead cultivate, their own very personal AIs with specific creative visions, an AI who specializes in combining the works of Darren Aronofsky with Jeff Vandermeer, or Star Wars meets My Little Pony. And I'm not sure that will be good for us, because if AI is...
Why not? What's wrong with that? That sounds not my thing, but fun, interesting, wild.
As good as human creation, and a lot of people seem to believe that it will be, or they're happy enough with it as it is, then the only way to compete with it is to produce at a similar...
Compete? Why am I competing? What is this competition you speak of? Why would I need to compete? Is there some other underlying narrative that you're avoiding speaking about because it sounds bad when you put it that way?
Scale, and is that what we want? AI to reduce us in our creativity to factory...
It can't reduce us and our creativity to anything, because literally all of the people who are currently creating art and not making money at it are still going to be able to create art and not make money at it.
Directors to editors of a creative factory output. It's not a tool at that point. Instead, you are a tool to the machine, putting on the finishing touches to make it ready for the rest of the world. If AI never really gets, good enough, then great, it's a different situation. But people use this stuff right now because they believe it will be good enough. If not today, then tomorrow. I'm sure someone in the comments is already tapping away and telling me about how we already live in that world of hybrid generation and creative expression, and they're going to point out all these edge cases which blur the line between them and how this is no different, I'm just complaining over nothing, etc, etc. And
they're not edge cases. This is the problem you're failing to come to terms with, my dude, is we're not talking about edge cases. We're talking about the evolution of tools in the artistic field.
cases do exist, we can talk about them, but as I said before, this is an issue of scale, of magnitude, of how fundamentally it is transforming everything. If the cost we pay for everyone being able to generate everything is that most of what we see isn't made by people, what's the point? The AI vision that suddenly anyone can be a painter, a director, a cinematographer, an author, a board game designer, a screenwriter, a podcaster, etc, all through AI is to me a fantasy these companies are very happy and willing to sell, but will not bear itself out in reality in the long run. Not in a way we find meaningful, and in a way which will blunt human connection. To me,
I mean, fuck, what up, Nemesis? If you can just, if you could use AI and 3D printing and, print on demand features and tools and everything else, and come up with, a board game, right? For you and what up, Exile? We're art. It's always art. It always comes back to art. If you can do that and you have a board game that you can play with your friends and then you and your friends enjoy that board game, then that's the point. That's the meaning behind it all.
Increasingly handing over artistic expression to machines.
Frankly, Leftist Corp, I completely agree. It's why I'm not even, I have no interest in watching that hour-long Ed Zitron video because it's just going to be the same regurgitated horse shit.
And companies is like handing over human conversation, abdicating from human connection. Speaking of, I am also morbidly fascinated by the rise of AI girlfriends and boyfriends. Not to mention the rise of AI influencers, which if you didn't know that they existed, I'm sorry, I'm about to...
And to me, like, am I a fan of this? Not particularly. Like, the AI influencers and these AI thirst traps and all this other fucking shit are like not for me, dog, right? Like, but this is the inevitable result of parasocial relationships under capitalism. Right? It'd be nice, Exile. It'd be nice. I always had mass-produced media, Old Lobster. So, get on my level.
Ruin that for you because they do. In fact, you may not even realize that they're not real. In fact, a lot of people don't, because when you look at their comments, it's full of old creepy dudes clearly believing that they're real. There are whole communities built around what it's like to be in a relationship with an AI. People posting about how heartbreaking it is when ChatGPT updates and suddenly it's lost some of the charm that they originally fell for. When I was looking into this, I came across this advertisement for an AI girlfriend, where the dominant message is, quote, shape her personality. No drama, no heartbreak, just the girlfriend.
Yeah, this has to do with you know, the incels and that whole fucking thing. Right?
You create how you want her. She listens, she cares, she's always there, and best of all, she's made for you. Sweet or
Those are my favorite, Leftist Corp. My favorite is when I engage with anyone, you know, who just out of the blue wants to have a conversation, and I'm just like, let's just get to the point where you ask me about a fucking commission, right? What up, Froggy?
sassy, flirty, or loyal. The CEO of Bumble says that one day we're just gonna have our AIs date each other and we'll find out who we're most compatible with through that. It's almost cartoonish how straight out of a cyberpunk novel all of this is. It's easy to say that, oh, this is nothing new. You know, escorts and paid for partners have been a thing for about as long as humanity has been around. You know, lying on your dating profile is not new either. But like with AI in the art space, this is again an issue of scale and magnitude and ease in an increasingly atomized and apparently lonely society where people are looking for connection and
Walking Stick, I knew you were a time traveler. Summer of 3024, when I had a 2-hour commute, I had an AI chat companion. She and I, sure you did. She and I talked endlessly about the sun coming up over a train station. You're from the future. Just admit it. What up, Littlefinger? Nano Banana Pro did the best graffiti I've ever seen. Nice.
Community more than ever, AI partners are a pretty dangerous sell because AIs are not designed to be people. They're designed to be products, to make you happy, to please you, to be a servant to you, not to be an equal. They're designed to keep you paying for them. So they give you that kick of dopamine and oxytocin, which we can use to trick our minds into thinking we're getting real meaningful connection. And this is to say nothing of a society, by the way, where art itself is devoid.
How do you feel about porn? How do you feel about Pornhub, my G?
Of human connection and expression. You know, I want to read a comment that I came across.
That's why I don't argue with people about AI. You'll see me in other people's chats when people start being wrong about AI. I don't say a goddamn thing, right? Some of y'all do, and I think it's beautiful. It's wonderful. But it's just not worth it for me. Is it an open question of which part? Whichever part turns you on, and it's an open question if you want to answer it.
In one of these communities talking about their AI partner. Besides, AI girlfriends are just better for men. They are both better in terms of looks and mentality. An AI girlfriend will provide much more than a real woman can. An AI girlfriend won't cause the mental harm that a toxic woman may cause to a man. This person was getting lambasted in the comments and they issued a correction, but this sentiment was everywhere. It was widespread. In a world where women as a whole—
Have you heard of the manosphere? Right? This is not new. This is the inevitable result of these issues existing under capitalism. I swear to God, it always comes back to capitalism.
Are increasingly villainized to young men, especially as responsible for the world's ills and their own. This is only going to make things immeasurably worse.
I tend to agree, Nero. I don't, whatever you're into, I'm glad you're happy.
It's only going to present them with a fantasy of what a woman should be, catering to what they want and not what they need, potentially without them even knowing, because the ultimate fantasy of anything like this is not just having the perfect woman, it's that the perfect woman chose you, that you—
I agree, Froggy. I agree. Drawing someone who exists in the world naked is, without consent, is frowned upon, right? Unless it's kids. Yeah, that's, I'm sorry. We like, I thought we were operating under a given set of, terms, right? That there are certain things. I'm not a fucking, what you call it, right? Like, I'm not a free speech absolutist or any of that horseshit, right? There are certain terms, yes. The internet often isn't true. Fuck them. I still can't believe that dude got away with having that fucking panel and is still out here on Twitch somehow. Shit is wild to me.
You earned them, that you won them over with your charm and your wit. People who are buying into this, especially young people who have access to all of this, often invisibly, are finding a very private, socially risk-free way to simulate human connection during a very formative stage of their psychological development that will impact how they see future relationships and people. AI therapy is another example of this kind of field in terms of how it's impacting how people think. People turning to AIs as private confidants. One girl even—
Yes, because again, under capitalism, people can't afford to go to a real fucking therapist. Because does this therapist take your insurance? Can you afford the $150 a session fee that it requires you to see this therapist? And if you can you do it with the amount of time that you actually need to see the therapist? Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, yearly? Like, what the fuck, dude?
Asking ChatGPT to edit her suicide note before taking her own life. We believe that in the near future, half the people on the planet will be AI, and we are—
Those are definitely sentences, Froggy. I don't know what we're talking about, and yeah.
the company that's bringing those people to life. That was the CEO of Inception AI. It is a hallucination of human connection in much the same way that AI art or writing or games might be, an illusion that humans are seemingly very willing to pull over their eyes because, like so much of AI art and media might be, it'll be good enough. It'll hit—
Yeah, but I don't know who Alexis Texas is, and like that whole,
those dopamine receptors just right. It'll pull the strings of the weak human brain searching for the easiest but not the—
But yeah, ultimately I'm against using AI or any tool for that matter to take a person and put them in, sexually compromised situations for your own edification without their consent. Create new people who don't actually exist and use them. You can always fap to leftist corp.
best thing for us. In principle, again, these are not new things. It is easy to look at all these technologies and see the real tangible ways that these can benefit people. They do exist, but as—
that is probably the most information that I know now about a porn star, Froggy. Like,
with all of them, this is an issue of scale. In fact, it's arguably the lack of scale which has helped us moderate some of these issues in the past. Humanity has basically invented the perfect tools to exploit the weaknesses of the fickle human brain, and we are defenseless against it. The human brain wants the easiest path. It is easily traced. This is not unique to AI, of course. There is a lot of technology which is incredible and advanced, but which the human brain has leaned into unhealthily. It exists with social media.
What up, OU Moon?
As well, with sensationalist news, and people are increasingly aware that for as amazing as social media is as a technology, it is addictive and harmful to our understanding of each other and ourselves. And
is social media the problem? Or is it, I don't know, the way that social media has been co-opted in order to sell you ideas and products for profit? That's the problem.
and separating ourselves from it is increasingly important these days. People talk about social media hygiene.
There is some good news here. Social media consumption has actually been declining since 2022, especially amongst young people, as if they're hopefully realizing this. After all, we now understand the impact social media has on us far better than we did in 2007 when it all exploded onto the scene, and the same will happen, my bet, with AI. People want more authentic connection, but we aren't necessarily that good at training ourselves to find it.
It's also destroyed our attention spans. Like, they've done studies on this, and I feel like you would be hard pressed to argue that this is not somehow just like a thing that we should just be totally fine with and that we shouldn't be trying to do something about it.
No, we should. But you can't undo the evils that social media has done without undoing the underlying socioeconomic system that caused this to be a thing.
Especially because we have good evidence that when these things
What up, Elwa? What up, Maiko?
are operating on the magnitude and scale that we are talking about, it actually has dire consequences for us socially and politically. In 2016, it emerged Facebook's algorithm plays an increasingly dangerous role in perpetuating genocidal propaganda in the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar. You've probably heard of dead internet theory, which used to be this kind of joke conspiracy.
We're just running all of them. And the fuck did he just yada yada the Myanmar fucking genocide because he needed to get to dead internet theory? Like, holy fucking shit, dude. That was tasteless. That was tasteless.
About how all of the internet was just bots which were being used to, you know, cultivate human opinion and thought, and you're not really interacting with anyone. But these days, that's literally just Twitter and Facebook. Apparently, up to half of all internet traffic is now made up of AI-driven bots, many of whom are clearly programmed to spread propaganda and spin a narrative, as well as carry out hacking and phishing attempts, that sort of thing. I am worried that LLMs and AIs have played and will play a big role in the rising authoritarian trend around the world, especially because AIs lets a very small vocal minority make it seem like everyone believes something. It makes it seem normal by just flooding whole sections of the internet with these ideas and people who don't really exist, and that itself shifts the Overton window. Alternatively, you can just keep on posting through AIs.
Ultimately, what he's saying is that people are stupid and are easily convinced by AI bots on the internet. That could be true. Are people stupid? I don't know. I try to believe the best in people. Maybe they are stupid. L people, indeed. I do know that you don't have to do any of that. You can actually fucking engage and use some critical thinking and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't grow your own, you can store-bought is fine, right?
Just copious amounts of lies. Not to mention that people are increasingly treating AI as an objective source of information, that it perfectly synthesizes and systematizes human opinion with facts.
As opposed to the internet. Like all these guys, all his complaints are complaints about other stuff that we have already heard before. And yes, we've heard all these arguments about AI as well. They're not particularly interesting or new, but we're almost done.
And produces an objective reality you can rely on. You can ask it anything, like God.
God, is this true? God, is this true?
God, is this true?
But we're also seeing that when people aren't happy with the answers that it gives them, they go and create AIs which are...
So he just said that people are just blindly taking AI's responses as accurate and the word of God, I feel like is what he said. And then immediately pivots to, if they don't like the answers of the word of God, that they are creating their own gods.
literally built to give different answers and to reinforce certain opinions and viewpoints, which I find very, very funny, but also grim. What is our information environment going to look like when AI generated video and articles and propaganda is widespread and indiscernible? These are super weapons in a war I am not sure we're prepared to fight, that we may not even realize we are fighting, that our brains are ill-equipped to deal with. And because of how they work,
the Flowbots, long before ChatGPT, said there's a war going on for your mind. I'm sorry you just woke up today.
we may not even need to have someone maliciously using them to do some bad. They just erode us as we become increasingly reliant and susceptible to them. I really love cyberpunk. It is one of my favorite genres, and when people think of it, they usually think of these big worlds rotting as powerful corporations dominate the government, neon lights and endless cityscapes. But one thing about these worlds we sometimes forget is how consumed people are by technology. These are worlds where technology has filled the niches of human lives in unhealthy ways, but we cannot seem to escape them because it's too hard, too expensive, or our brains are just hooked on them. These aren't just dystopias.
Or we're into that. That can never be an option, right? That can never be an option, that people are actually into the thing. You're just addicted, right? Or you're forced, or it's too hard, or whatever else.
Is because democracy has fallen, they're dystopias because human connection itself has eroded. AI is trained on dead loved ones, cyberpsychosis, addictive memory drugs where we can live out the past over and over, algorithmically generated media designed to keep people hooked and listening and watching for days at a time. These are worlds where human...
But why? What is the underlying socioeconomic principle that causes all of this to be a thing?
Connection has decayed.
If only the AI would go away, we could get back to whatever we had before the AI, which definitely wasn't fucking over everything in sight.
To the weight of technology we are not fully equipped to deal with. These are worlds which are full of
You feel me, Moon? You feel me?
remarkable stuff with genuine applications, but these people have been eroded by it. These societies are even more atomized and lonely than our own. Part of that is that artificiality is a big theme in these stories. Artificial and lonely than our own. Part of that is that artificial...
I miss Homozygote. In spite of having serious disagreements about AI and stuff like that, they were an invaluable resource on this platform. And I'm sorry that they are gone. I hope they are well. If anybody, happens to run into Marcus anywhere, just tell them I wish them the best, and I hope things are going their way. In a way, it's what was it? It's like what was the fucking movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and I keep getting stuck on Saving Private Ryan. It's not that. The one with you like apples? Good Will Hunting. Thank you, Littlefinger. It's like Good Will Hunting when Ben Affleck says to Matt Damon about like someday I hope to come by your house and you're just gone and I never see you again because it means you went on to something better. That's how I feel about Marcus. I hope, in some ways, I do hope that I never see them again because they are living their best life off the internet, doing good works with the degree that they got everything else. You know what I mean?
Artificiality is a big theme in these stories. Artificiality of human connection and artificiality of the stuff we engage with, and the consequence of that. But I also feel like these are societies, these are worlds where if someone was really on this AI bandwagon, they would look at it and they would go, well, this is just a world with infinite freedom, you know, to consume what you want and create what you want. But this technology is perfectly designed to hack the human brain, our attention span, our dopamine cycles, and I feel like we do not know what that is necessarily going to do to us. I cannot help but see the problems of the—
all these same arguments were leveled at TV as well, by the way. And maybe they're true, right? Maybe rock and roll did destroy the fabric of America.
These cyberpunk worlds and people who become overly dependent on AI girlfriends and boyfriends, or who are completely sold the reality of LLM propaganda, or who cede the artistic landscape more and more to AI. I really like Justin Bateman's description. One of the ways it's going to destroy humans long before—
Justine. Not Justin. Justine. Justine Bateman. Who knew that Justine Bateman was going to become one of the fucking leaders in the anti-AI battle?
or there's a nuclear disaster, is going to be the emotional hollowing out of people. But the emotional hollowing out of people is very hard to define. It is very subjective. Everyone's going to be divided on what that looks like and how bad that is. And so in that, it becomes very difficult to do something about it. That is partly why these problems are so hard to address on any societal, cultural, and legal level, you know?
I've been living in Europe and the United States for the last—
Is she a hog, Textillion? I didn't know that. See, this is the thing. I don't know these people. I don't care, right? Like, I care about actors when they act. Now, I know that, like, I know about Pedro outside of the acting. But very often I can't even remember, like, anybody's particular name. You know what I mean? I'm there watching the movie, and then the movie is over, and I say that was a good movie, and I would like to watch more movies with that actor. You know what I mean?
2 years, and in that time I've had the privilege of meeting so many of you in the community. Human connection has meant so much to me. Humanity is not just something we're born with, it's something we can lose when we fall in love with people who—
And now we're doing emotional propaganda, right? There's this particular music and these pictures presented in this particular way, and he softened his voice and he's talking about the human impact. And again, not saying that any of what he's saying is not valid or accurate or whatever. I'm just saying that this is propaganda.
Never existed, when we look up to only the echo of real people, when we only cry from art created by nobody, when we get our podcasts from empty shells who will never remember us, when we hollow ourselves out with cheap hits of dopamine and oxytocin.
Some of these problems can be solved, some of them may never be solved. Some may just be the tax we pay on technological progress. That's how a lot of people will see it. Some can be fixed with regulation, some with cultural shifts. You know, people who are raised on social media have a different relationship with it and can sort of see through it in some ways, where people who weren't can't. If you've seen how your parents are on Facebook.
I wasn't raised on social media, and I'm good.
If this dystopian vision never comes to pass, then I will be very happy. I'll be happy to say that. But if I'm right, this is something that we need to reckon with, and we will need to develop like AI media hygiene as much as we have social media hygiene, more of it, if anything. All I can do is keep putting my money where my mouth is in human art and human creation. I work with an artist, her name is Maria, who develops the speed paints, which you would have seen throughout this video. And
right, no, but the hits of cheap dopamine, right, are only valid or invalid based on the perceptions of the person with the platform, Pharaoh. That's the key. Now that you mentioned TV, I remember somebody saying that tea houses were hated by European nobility and political elite initially. Yes. And then the coffee houses once the European expansion into the Western Hemisphere started bringing coffee back to Europe, leading to the Enlightenment and all that. I'm sure that there were people talking shit about all these caffeine consumers. Yeah, she's anti-woke and was relieved when Trump won, told Megyn Kelly on her podcast or some shit. Does that mean I can just invalidate all her opinions? I feel like I should be able to.
In other videos which I've made, she is fantastic. She also does the thumbnails. Absolutely adore her work. I love working with her. I love working with artists. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. And I love that I get to elevate other authors and their stories and what they've created in my videos and my work. And all of that kind of love that I have is where Labyrinth began. Labyrinth is a collection of...
And now we're pushing our book. We did a ham-handed, you did an emotional heartstrings propaganda piece into pushing your book. Boo! You opened with the book. I'm disappointed, dude. I'm disappointed.
Stories bringing together some of the biggest names in epic fantasy like Emil Wong, Ryan Cahill, even Christopher Paolini. We've got Nebula Award winning.
I don't know who any of these people are. I guess I know this person because I'm aware of this book in the movie. This of Blood and Fire, the Bound and Broken book 1, I'm picking up big Game of Thrones energy. And you got a book in here called I Am. Oh, no. Just a weird coincidence. Their name is I Zhang, not AI. Apologies, my bad.
Author Ai Zhang, who's worked...
And then the Sword of Kaijin, the Theonite War story. Better to die sharp in war than rust through a time of peace. It's got big, strong men bring good times energy happening.
Is incredible and amazing, and you deserve to read it. So many writers who you either know or should know. There are lots of stories about fantastical creatures. There's a direwolf, a dragon, an angel, a giant magical jellyfish spreading aurora throughout the sky. That's my epic fantasy story based in a world where art is magic and magic comes from these gargantuan creatures. But there are lots of other stories on other...
That's a neat concept. The idea of doing like art being like, because if you ever play D&D, there's like component spells and things like that, and just generally speaking, when people do magic and whatever, but like the idea of a world in which you have to do art in order to do magic is a neat concept. I like that as a concept. You could have a lot of fun with that
stuff too, stories of fantasy and adventure and sci-fi and space. It's great. But hitting our stretch goals would not only mean that we get to do another volume, because we're calling this Labyrinth Volume 0 and we want to do Volume 1, etc. But it would mean that in the future volumes, while at the start it would probably be by invitation only.
Is the rest of this? Yeah, no, the rest of this is just an ad for his Kickstarter. The last 5 minutes are that. Well, you saved me the rest of the video, dude. Oh. Did you have fun? I had fun. I had fun. All my gift subs are falling away. My question at this point is, what's wrong with one of those artists adding AI tools to their process? Well, then you're not a real artist or something, is what I'm given to understand. I had a whole conversation in this chat, not today, but on another day, where I was, I am an artist. This piece right here is my art. I like it because I can point to it right there. It's also one of my favorite art pieces that I've done. And you can't even see all of it because to properly appreciate it, you have to be able to see in UV spectrum, and most human beings can't do that. but apparently the idea that because it just their brain did not want to attach to the idea that because I am an artist, every act of artifice that I engage in a creative sense is art. Everything I do is art. I art all the time. Okay. So I don't know exactly why this dude gave me a shout out a few weeks ago. But I've had some fun in hanging out in their channel sometimes. I've seen Digital in there. So we're gonna rate. This is somebody new, so try not to be too weird. But he seems like he's like fine with weird. I will be back tomorrow. And in the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shaggy loves you. So do I. Be great.
Dudes, and even just any purveyor of alternative